So, we are really near the end of our story, King of the Cloud Forests. They're at Leeli's house, and he's about to explain his adventures with the Yetis. She never wanted anyone else to find out, you know, he said. She made me promise to tell no one, wouldn't even let me talk about it, would you? You didn't want my career ruined, did you, Molly dear? And you were right, I suppose. There would never have been a Nobel Prize for a man, and a man of science at that, who came back from the dead and said he'd been living with Yetis. I had no proof, and said he'd been living with... I had no proof, no evidence, you see, nothing. His sister brought back a folder from the desk and laid it on the table beside him. You believe me now, Molly, he said, reaching for her arm. I always did, Teddy, I always did. But as I feared no one else would, they'd have dismissed you as fanciful, mad even. I had to protect you. I had to try. It was for your own sake, for your work, Teddy. You understand? I know, dear, I know. But after all the work and all the honours, I find at the end of my life that nothing has been more precious to me than my 3 years with the Yetis. If you had met them, you'd understand as he does. He smiled at me. Do you eat muffins? He does, said Grandma. Lots of them. Good. Then we'll have muffins and tea, Molly, he said, rubbing his hands. Edward Leeli told us his story over muffins and tea, with many of the sketches spread out on the carpet in front of us. Others were in a pile on his lap. As he talked, he leafed through them to illustrate his story. He began with a photograph. Christ's Hospital, CH, that was. My old school, you know. Must have been speech day. What do you think, Molly? About 1902, was it? And that's Mama and Papa. He died soon after. It's the only photograph I had of all 3 of us together. I kept it with me. Took it everywhere. I did a lot of climbing as a youngster, Lake District, Swiss Alps, and when they asked me to go as a I did a lot of climbing as a youngster, Lake District, Swiss Alps, and when they asked me to go as a doctor to a climbing expedition to the Himalayas, it was too good a chance to miss. Always a keen naturalist I was. Plants, animals, liked to draw them. He pointed at the drawings. The Himalayan bear. Did you ever see one? I shook my head. Not many of them about, but I found them. Wolves, I saw plenty of those, but I never saw what I really was after, a snow leopard. So I left base camp and went off on my own looking for them. For some reason, you know, they don't attack people. Can't think why. We make enough fur coats out of them, don't we? At my feet I saw several sketches of snow leopards, all drawn with great life and power. I never saw any snow leopards, I said. He smiled, not surprised. Difficult to find. They live higher than any other creature, or so I thought. In my search for them, I think I went to places no man had ever been. And then one day I went too far and found myself in a forest, a cloud forest so thick that light only penetrates in the clearings. And there were few enough of those. I wandered in circles for days, but I found my snow leopards and I drew them. I did not go hungry, for the place abounded with berries and nuts, and there were always streams to drink from. That was where I first saw the Yetis. I was drinking one day when they came upon me. I had heard of Yetis, of course, but being a man of science, I only ever believed in the evidence of scientific proof. None existed. So the Yeti did not really exist. That was my thinking. But even I had to believe the evidence of my own eyes. They were frightened at first, as indeed I was. But they came closer and closer each day, and when I talked to them, they seemed to listen. They came to watch me every day by the stream, and in time I followed them home. To the cave, I said. He nodded and went on. At first I did not go inside, for they appeared to want to keep me at a distance, and I was quite content just to be close to them. They began to bring me food, sheep milk, and roots and berries. In the end, it was one of the younger Yetis who came out one evening, took me by the hand and brought me to their fireside. I became one of them, just as you did. I have never known such a comradeship as I experienced with those creatures. He turned to Uncle Sung and my grandmother. It is so difficult to explain to one who has not met them, but it seems to me that in their simplicity and honesty they reach heights of nobility that we can only aspire to, and without any learning or any God too. I made a few sketches of them and I wrote down my observations. The sketches I still have. He rifled amongst the sheets in his folder and looked up at me again without finding anything. I was there for about 3 years and noted many things about the Yeti. They live, I believe, 4, perhaps 5 times as long as we do, and therefore, of course, they age very slowly. They suckle their young for 2 years at least, I discovered, and by my calculation, and it cannot be accurate, of course, pregnancy lasts about 14 months. They hunt only what they need to kill in order to survive, and as you so rightly said, young man, everything is held in common. Violent disputes are rare and quickly over. Yetis are of a most forgiving nature. They are physically twice our size and as strong as an ox, and on 4 legs can run faster than any cheetah. In short, if there is a master race, and it was we who invented the term, it is certainly not ourselves. I have often thought since that we people are the mutant line, that the Yeti is in the fact that the true Homo sapiens, there they are, and he handed me a sheaf of sketches.